There we go. Yeah, no, my microphone was definitely on, but since my system rebooted last night, my OBS didn't pick it up. So yeah, you saw you saw me talking there though, right? So like this was the system was picking up, but OBS went back to a default. So that was yeah, that's annoying. I need to always look at that because I look over here and I see it connecting. You know, I see myself talking over here and I think that I'm good. So all right, good. Thanks for that, Zorgle. That's good looking out. Connect to the VPN. Connect into the bastions. This would be maybe verify your environment variables. Now it's going to be slightly different than in modules here, where they look at verify their available modules, load modules, and validate. This is going to be check paths with, right, so check your paths. Compiling, identify the variables that are compilers. Right, so these guys are all, mostly our users are developers or research scientists, so they have to be able to do that. Saw my hands moving on mobile. That's funny, Zorro. Yeah, I just normally you guys should still be able to see this, but yeah, that was as that. Also, it thinks I said Zorro, not Zorgle. Whatever. They're fine. Compile your source code. Verify that the scheduler is working. Check your active jobs. Kick off jobs. What will this be? Kick off jobs, and then it'll be verify the output of your jobs. Now, the running of jobs with us is all PBS Pro. So not Slurm. Normally I'm using Slurm when I'm showing you guys stuff, but it's a little bit different there. Compiling is, oh, and modules, we use a tool called SPAC. So these are kind of the tasks that I'm going to have the users do. And validate current usage and quotas in the shared file system. Now, our shared file system that I'm going to be talking about in that case is Lustre, and it's not just du command. It is du commands to see the usage of your directories. In that case, it's a normal file system set of commands, but you actually use these lctl or lcutl commands to see all that. Local Ken, how's it going? Yeah, the vocals weren't going for a while there. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's because when your system reboots randomly overnight, as fucking Windows loves to do, the OBS reset my microphone to default. Even though my microphone is default for my system, OBS picks it up as Yeti, so it has to be a Yeti microphone instead of. It's stupid. It's just stupid. I didn't check it today when I came live. So, all right. So, anyways, this is kind of an outline, and then I'm going to be putting these into my little lab book. So I have a little lab guide that I'm making for my users, and this is probably like the base start of what I'm going to show them. I can build up from here. I can add as I get more frequently asked questions from users. I'm going to keep adding them in there, that kind of stuff. So, all right. So that's that. Let's move this out of the way for now. Then we can go back to that if we need to. Let's look into. We were going to do a one-off build of Werewolf in the newer cluster, because the other day we had validated that x86-64 version 3 or higher we needed. So we're going to, just for now, we're just going to build a new VM. And we're going to call the name of it Werewolf. Not Werewolf 2, even though normally when I move systems to newer versions, I'll do a new thing. This one's going to be an in-place upgrade of the one. So we're going to move everything over like a hermit crab, moving from a smaller shell to a bigger shell. We're going to do all of this. He's only going to go in the one pool, so that's good. Let's go as OS. We're going to give him the ISO image of that Rocky 10 server that we're going to build, Rocky 10.1. Storage is not going to be local. Well, if it wants us to use local, I guess we could. What I'd really like is... Yeah, okay, that's where that's going to come from. Fine. Version. That's going to be a higher kernel version. Okay. There we go. Let's go next. We can leave all this on default. That's fine with me. Disks. We are going to give him a 200 gig disk because he's going to be doing all of our storage for us. So we'll do that. That'll be out on the lab storage, which is got plenty of storage right now for us. That's good. We don't worry about caching, any of that kind of stuff. We are going to give him 4 and 4. That'll be 16 total cores. Good. And we are not going to change this. Actually, we are going to change this to host. And then memory. Memory is going to be, we'll give him 8192. Network, we're going to put him on the correct VLAN tag, which is VLAN 1. That's the tag that we use in this network. MAC address, we'll let it auto assign. That's fine. And then this is all the things. Yep, make sure he's on the right tagged. Firewall's fine. Give him 200. Okay. Let's go watch this guy boot up. I've never built this guy. I've never built in Proxmox, and I've never built a Rocky 10 box from an Anaconda installer. So this will be my first time messing with it. So let's go see what we can accomplish with that. I think this will be kind of fun. Yeah, there's his name, Werewolf. Normally we will get to a process like this, and then we'll deploy these from like a template or something. We don't have a template yet for Rocky 10 in our environment, so we're going to build this the first time. So that's what we'll do. Let's let him come up. Let's let him start, and let's go to the console and see what his console looks like. We could probably make this a little bigger here. And we can test this, or I'm just going to go ahead and install Rocky Linux 10 in FIPS mode. Now that's the Federal Information Processing standard FIPS, right? But I don't need FIPS mode. Let's go ahead and just do Rocky Linux 10, and then we're going to see where it goes. Although Werewolf is FIPS and SE Linux compliant, and it works with those, so we can turn those on if we want to. Let's just see what we got for now, though. We'll just kind of see where this is going. If anybody's got any questions, let me know. Oh, let me show you guys this too, by the way. I guess I have it right here in the background, so I can pull this up real quick while that's starting. I know that's bright, but this is our Professional Linux Users Group 12. It's our 12th year, and we're going to be talking on the August 8th and 9th, and these are the people that are coming in to talk for now. We're also, I will be open if we get 2 more speakers. If anybody else wants to come, I'm going to drop them in on the lunchtime sessions, because I realize people are coming from all over the globe to this. So and we meet virtually, so they're not really so worried about lunch as like maybe us in the Phoenix time zone are. So I can put people here if we need to. But otherwise, when we get to the end of the night each night, we're just going to kind of hang out in one of the chats and just kind of do whatever we want. So these will start showing up here soon. MC said Rocky 10 for you, just hung at the grub and restarted over and over again. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get past that. I don't know what it looks like on that part, so we'll check here in a second. But anyways, I want to let you guys know that there's a bunch of those events. If you're ever in our Discord, if Discord would pop up, you guys can always go up here to our events section, and events will tell you what's going on. So the events that we have coming up right now, move this up out of the way a little bit here. All right, the events that are coming up right now, our Bash study group's always going, and that one has 123 people interested. I've seen as many as 20 people in there, but so the average is probably somewhere between like 5 and 20, on any given day. The last of the Linux administration courses is going this weekend, which will be 2 weeks of troubleshooting. So we'll be doing week 15 and 16. And then that's all done. After this Saturday, the Linux admin course is done. Then we're doing Linux from scratch. Colchis has been running that. And that's a tool that's out there for you guys that want to build Linux and build kernels and do all that little mucking around in the low-level system. It's good. It's good practice, right? It's good things to do. So I've got Wireshark study sessions. So some people wanted to get ready for the Wireshark certification. I'm not necessarily interested in taking that cert but I constantly tell you guys that I think that Wireshark's a fantastic tool to know, because everything you do in the Linux world is going to touch a network in some way. I've never built a Linux server in this world that didn't have connection to some type of TCP/IP network. So there's that. The Werewolf user group, I always tell you guys about this too late, and I always feel bad about it. Jerry Bio, all these are always just up in Discord. Oh, and that event I was just talking about, we do those in Discord because I don't like, not that I don't publicize them. I don't put those out because I want my speakers to be candid about their jobs and that kind of stuff. So I don't really record those unless they ask me to. And there are some examples of those on the YouTube side of things in my, it's in like just my videos channel. There's only like 7 videos and they're all recordings of different people basically that have come and talked to us. So no, normally we don't record those. You have to be live at those unless you specifically ask, just so you guys know. Oh, Hanso, hi, you said Prolog book. Yeah, nice, thanks. So the book, the LeanPub book, the question was, what's the difference between the LeanPub book and the online labs? So the Prolog Big Book of Labs points at those labs, but it acts more of like almost like a diary. It's got deeper questions for you to look into and reflect on than just what's in the lab. So you could go to, any of you guys could just go to Killer Coda and run those labs for free, right? They're all free. But if you wanted to like dig deeper and take notes and go look stuff up, that's what the Big Book of Labs from the LeanPub is. So hopefully that answers that question. Anyways, these are the things that we're doing, Linux from scratch, Wireshark, and then these will be broken out. So right now, this is just like a placeholder, but when we get closer, so probably sometime, I'll probably do it in like June, I will make all of the sessions, and we will have each individual session so people can just say the ones that they're interested in. You don't just have to go like, oh, hey, I'll come to the whole conference for the whole weekend. No. And I'll keep updating these as we go. We're full right now on speakers, but I do have a couple of slots that we can slide extra in. I'm going to try to get somebody to come in from CIQ. They're the guys that run, do Werewolf and Rocky and all those. I'm going to try to get one of their people to come in and talk. And I may try to get somebody from my company, Redline, to come in and talk just about the state of high-performance compute. I have a guy from Prime Solutions Group who's come and talked to us a few times before. But he's their CEO now. Well, actually, no, he's not their CEO. He's their president, which is just on the board, even though he was the director of engineering before. And he said he probably can't make it, but he's going to try to see if one of his guys is interested in come and talk to us. And I'm like, it's a deal, you know, send one of your tech. I mean, he's still a super technical guy, but I'm like, send one of your tech guys. So, all right, so that's something to think about. All right, let's see how this is going. Let's see if this is building. I don't have any idea what this is going to look like because I've never done this in this environment before. Console. All right, yeah, let's see what this looks like here. All right, so this is a normal Anaconda installer. If you guys have never seen this, this is the way they always look. We want English. We'll go fine with that. And now we've got all of these different things that we get to do. So let's pick a root account. We will enable the root account, right? And I'll go ahead and put in a root password here. Right, and then we'll come over here and say done, and then we'll make a user, and we'll just have some Scott user. It'll be my generic user in the environment. Typically, we give him some type of sudo access once we get this all built, so we'll do that, right? And then let's go look at time date. Obviously, we want not New York, we want Phoenix, right? Or actually, sometimes it's just up here as Arizona. Yeah, well, it might be U.S. Arizona. All right, well, United States, there we go. That should be Arizona. Boom, okay. A lot of times they let you grab that via just like there's like a little sliding graph. I'm surprised they've removed that because normally you can just go and pick where you're at. All right, that's fine. We can allow NTP to be just the base pools for now. I'm fine with that. And then we'll look into that later. Let's change the software selection. We don't want server with a GUI. Server with a GUI. I say GUI from Jiu-Jitsu, but server. We want a server. And then the base tool, we don't need all the tools for this. However, this system does need to have a few things to be a Werewolf server. We need at least the file and storage server of NFS. So we do want NFS server on the system. FTP is not necessary, but we do want TFTP, which is not part of those tools. We don't really need any of this. We're not running InfiniBand. We don't need a network file system client because it's not going to be a client. We'll take performance tools because I like to have those. And we're not going to touch any of these other capabilities here. We're not going to do container management specifically on this node, although this node is going to have container images on it, but not in the way that some people might think. He's not going to be headless. If he were actually one of my normal like servers, I'd have scientific support. But let's just do system tools. We want system tools on there. And let's just pick these. We don't need anything else for now. The server can be pretty lightweight out of the box. But we don't want the GUI because we don't want it to come up to run level 5. We don't want it to be... We try to keep our servers as lean as possible. It's like if you had a Lamborghini, but you had like a washing machine strapped up to the back of it. I'm like, what's that on there for? And you're like, well, in case I want to wash my clothes. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like the car is designed to go fast. We don't need all these other things. Anyway, sorry. Installation destination, we're going to put it there. And we can do automatic configuration or we can do custom. But before we do that, let's go back. Go automatic. We don't need to encrypt it. Free up space by removing or shrinking. We're not going to do any of that. And let's do a disk summary and see how it wants to carve this up. What's it going to do to this? It's just going to make it one big set of space. Okay. We don't want that. We don't want one big set of space. We want it to be... Kanko Bunny said great analogy. Yeah, I try to have good analogies if I can. Let's leave this for a second. We're probably going to come back and repartition this. But what we want to do is we want to come over here and we want to find... This is interesting. In our base system here, we don't have the option to do the security. I don't see the security tools here. So we're going to have to harden this after, which is fine. We can harden the server after we've built it. Let's look at the network and host name. Because he's in, here's the nice thing. Because he's in that network already, he's going off of, this is actually funny, he's getting DHCP from the other Werewolf server. So we're going to change this. We're going to modify this because we don't want him to do DHCP. So let's come over here to IPv4 settings. He's not going to be DHCP. He's going to be manual. We're going to add him, and his address, we know what it's going to be, 192.168.200.26. Now, he's eventually going to slide back into 25, which is the default Werewolf in the environment now, but we're going to make him 26 for now. Netmask is, well, you can use a /24, which is a CIDR notation, but 24 means 255.255.255.0. And his gateway is the C router internal interface in my network, which is 192.168.200.1. All right. DNS servers that we use internally are 192.168.11.1, or, and it should say that we can use commas to separate. The other one is 8.8.8.8. So those are the two that we want to populate his host file. Okay. And oh, Fisherman's here. Hey, Fisherman, how's it going? I'm just kind of the wife's at a concert tonight with one of our nieces. And who is the concert about? Let's see. Who is this real quick? Let's see. Wait, who's the... It is... So she's with one of our nieces who's like 15 or 16. And it's Bruno Mars. You guys know who that is? I don't... I'm pretty sure I've heard of him before. It's called the Romantic Tour. So anyways, the wife sent me a picture. They're there at the tour. All right. We're fine with this. We don't have any other settings. We don't have any other things in here that need to be set now for this to be able to go out and pull its configurations and stuff. But it is good that we were in the right network because we actually had. Why didn't that take the? Did I not save that? Just save. Okay. Boom. Huh. Well, let's say done, and then let's see if it actually takes that network as it should. Yeah, there it is. Okay, /26, good. Or .26/24, right? I took automatic partitioning, but it doesn't say. normally I'd carve this up myself, and we would do custom, and then we would come in here and then under custom we should be able to select that, and then it should ask us to build this ourselves. So we'll do LVM partitioning of our system, so new LVM mounts for this. And I say here I can create the ones that they recommend right here, right? I can just bam and it'll make them. And that's not bad right there, right? Like slash and boot, but that doesn't meet like a STIG or a CIS benchmark standard. There's a few more that you have to add, right? And the ones typically, so we can go reference them if we wanted, but typically you need to at least do these ones off separate. Slash home should be on its own. Plus that's going to be shared out as an NFS share, so we really want that one on its own. So the way we do this, right, is we would clear this up and we would go, okay, well, they put everything in boot. No, sorry, they did do home on its own. But home is really big, so we might take this and we might make home a more reasonable, maybe home's just 100 gigs to start, right? Maybe we'll just make that one 100. Can I refresh this? Yeah, rescan disks. Okay. All right, let's go. Wait, custom. Boom. All right, create it manually. Come here, change that to 100. And then we'll leave it as LVM. Volume groups are all fine. I don't care about any of those. I should be able to... Oh, update settings. Maybe that'll show. Okay, good. So now we've got 20 gigs free. And the root here can be a little bit smaller. Let's make this one 50 gigs. 50 gigs. Update settings. Boom. And then here's the other partitions that you absolutely... These are the ones you absolutely have to have if you are going to be STIG compliant. You need to have slash temp. And the capacity of this one can be kind of smaller. Let's just give this one like 15 GIBs, right? We'll add that as a mount point. Right, so there's our temp. Now we got about 25 left. And this is where it gets, I wouldn't say tricky, but this is where you need to have var log on its own as well. So logging must be on its own in our environment. So we're going to add a new one. And we're going to say /var/log needs to be on its own. And we'll give him 15 gigs for now. GIB, we'll add that. And now, real quick to note, I'm not giving any special hardening to these yet, because you need to set no exec, no suid, no dev for sure in these environments for these different file systems, but we're not doing any of that right now. Okay, and then the other one you need is typically var. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to try to remember them anymore because my brain doesn't work as well as it used to, but I'll show you guys how I would reference them, because this is right here how I would reference them right here. I'd come here. I'd go to my rel 9 because I don't think we have a 10 yet. I probably should go check on that. And I go right here to like no exec, and no exec will show which you know, as we go through here, which ones of these. So typically /home, so /home has to be on its own, /temp has to be on its own, var log must be on its own, var temp must be on its own, but that one can be pretty small. So we'll go add var temp, and that was var temp. Yeah. Oh, dev SHM, I'm not worried about that one. I'm not worried about that, but temp has to be there. var has to be on its own as well. So because it needs to be set with the no dev option. So okay, so we got those, we got that. I got 10 gigs left, it says. So we would make a var temp, and that one can be. We'll give that one. Let's give that one 5 GIBs, and then we only got 5 left. So what we might do, we might take this home here. And we might make home, let's make home just 80 for now. Wait, there, okay. Make it a little smaller. We can, by the way, we can add to this later. One of the nice things is you can always expand out. It's very hard to add and change partitions later in a file system, especially if this is going to become like a golden image. You kind of have to have these all the time. Slash op doesn't have, it's not required. But a lot of times, just so you know, in my professional world, a lot of times I'll have opt still on the file system, but everything under opt gets its own mount point if it's like an app. So like opt, and then, you know, whatever developer app is going into the system, like our third-party tool that we're writing, that'll be there. And I always support the guys. I don't write the tools, but I do put everything. So basically, like mounted things that we're getting from like VMware, and I'm getting 600 gig disks. That's our typical size is like 600 gig disks. I'll slap them in there on slash opt slash whatever, and those will be their own mount points. But I can't do any of this hardening on those, because if you harden these, then they won't have the ability to do any execution in there. All right, the last one we're going to do is slash var. And var is going to get the desired capacity of 25 GIBs. So gigabytes, not gigabytes, but it's close enough. All right, so that right there, home, var log, var temp, slash, which is root, temp, and then var. These are the partitions that need to be there to at least make your stigs happy. If we're not, look, in my home lab, I don't really care about stigging boxes, but here's var log. Var log audit must also have no dev. So var log audit must be on its own as well then. Var log audit. Var temp is right there. Okay. That's fine. We could, so you can kind of get away with it, because if you were going to set no dev in var, it would be set on var log audit, unless it explicitly says it must be its own file system. So there's some wiggle room there. But typically I wouldn't want all of slash var on no dev anyways. So it's one of these things where it really depends what you're trying to do. I guess I could go with, if I was going to modify one of these more, let's just say for now we're going to make this only 70 gigs. Again, I'll show you guys how we can change it later, which gives us 10 again, and we'll make var audit on its own as well. Its capacity will be 10 gigabytes. It says gigabytes even when I say gigabytes. That doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever, it's fine. Okay, so if we do this, we've now partitioned up our 200 gigs of space. We can add to these later by putting another disk in the system and then just adding. That's the nice thing about logical volume management, is it's super easy to just extend over another disk if you need to. So, all right, let's do this. We'll hit that done, and it says okay. They always give you this warning. I actually think this is funny, because over the years when I've had like college students and we're doing this, they'll always go, oh gosh, like this thing says it's gonna, do I want to do this? And it's all, and then they'll back out or whatever, they'll cancel. And I'm like, no, this is a brand new system that you've never touched before. Of course you want to partition it. Yeah. And they're like, well, the warning says it's going to blow everything away. And you're like, yeah, but there's nothing on it, right? So that's fine. Okay, so let's see. I am a little, not perturbed, but I'm a little surprised that this installer doesn't have the security. Like I can't just go auto config the security. That's probably in the paid for version. We're in the free version, so we don't need to set anything else up. We know it's English. We know it's all that. Let's go ahead and hit the begin installation, and we'll let that run a little bit while we're here. Klondike said at least Rocky Linux maintained the manual partitioning options. Fedora just really dumbed it down. Yeah, root customization requires you to sideload gparted. Yeah, I hate having to do that stuff later, because it's just, you got to get this right the first time. Now, so you guys know, if we were doing this through like a Kickstart file, which is a way we do it a lot of times when we're loading servers remotely, the Kickstart file, we can have all that customization in there as well. But this is like a one-off server. I'm never hoping to, well, not for many years, have to rebuild the Werewolf server. This is me moving him from the older hardware, right, the older XCPNG, which we determined over here he doesn't have the right configuration settings, right? We did that the other day. We were in here. How far back was that? It was right here. You can run this and see that your system, my system, only supports x86-64 version 2. I think we actually need to be up on version 4 to do that exec command. Let's just go history. And then like we're gonna try to exec in. This was where we were having problems when we were trying to go into our container image of Rocky 10, and it goes, nope, can't do it, buddy. This doesn't support at least version 3. That's what it was. So then over here, on our actual Proxmox server, we dropped into the shell and we were doing this, and we were seeing that we do support these higher versions of that. So now the systems that are built over here will be able to do that as well. And I should also be able to do that over here, because this box is out there as well. Oh. Where is he at? He's right. Oh, man. Now we'll do it this way. Yeah. Just grab him here. This. Jump over here. Right here. Drop that in there. This one, well, what is he? Oh, well, he's only Rocky 9, so maybe. Yeah, why does he show he's only there? Maybe it's the nodes. Maybe it's the way the node's built. Well, we'll look into it, right? We're gonna figure that out. This is why we do these things, is to figure this crap out. So let's see, once he comes up, let's see what he's got the capabilities of seeing. And like Fedora, just not the installer. Yeah, Klondike. It's definitely and I don't go, like I was even saying, I don't really go into an Anaconda installer like this very often. Maybe just to see what packages are there. But then typically when I'm building something remote, the first build will be something like this, and then I'll go grab everything I need out of it with my RPM commands, whatever packages I pick to install. And then what I do is I do like a kickstart install of this. And typically I load everything up from like, I'll take a software bill of materials, SBOM, SBOM, right? Software bill of materials, and I'll load all those in with kickstart and just build my system and partition it and everything. But that's only physical boxes. Nowadays, once you get one node up like this Werewolf node, everything else just comes from the configurations inside of Werewolf. And it's like, you just stand these nodes up like this. Some of you guys were around the other day when I stood these up. It was just an Ansible playbook, called them all, and then they all turned themselves on and pulled their images. So these are all the Rocky 10 images that were deployed in our environment. What are called they're called the test images, and you have access to all that stuff. All right, well, that's going to take a little time. Just like the other day, it took a little time when we were downloading everything. So yeah, it's going to take a while to do whatever it's doing. It's on 874 of 161, but it's way back over here still. So we can give that a little bit of time. We can go look at this a little bit while we're hanging out. For people who got here later, I was starting out with an HPC user training outline. This is actually for a project I'm on, but I just figured I'd etch it out here. And these are the things that I want my users to know how to do. Now, this is not admin tasks. So this is not like the admin HPC course. This is, you know, for us as admins, we're training our users that come in and do research and they do Linux things, but they're not Linux users natively. So, you know, user tasks, I want them to be able to tell which cluster is prod and which cluster is dev when they get into the environment, because they may need to know that to be able to do anything. Klondike, you said, have I tried Cloud Init yet? I have not played with Cloud Init at all yet, no. Nope, I have unfortunately not. Auto install on Debian and Ubuntu has been cool. Okay, I will put it on the list somewhere. I'll put it in the notes. Here, it's going in the notes. Cloud Init. Check it out. No, I mean, I often tell you guys that I'm gonna check things out, but when I write it down, at least I look at it later, right? So I want them to be able to validate stuff about their environment. I want them to be able to log in, right? Connect to the VPN, connect into the bastions, verify their environmental variables. I would also say this might go down. Oops. This one may be validate which system you landed on. So they come in through the bastions, and then they spread out to multiple different login nodes from around Robin. And their home directories are always mounted, so that's a thing that'll be So I want them to be able to validate their environmental variables in their home file system, because no matter what one they land on, they're always writing to the same home. So even if they got disconnected over lunch or something, came back in, they would still be on the same thing. Now they might lose the session they're in, but they, even if they lost the session they were in, they wouldn't lose the other stuff. Hey Harold, how's it going? You must be kicking off a little early tonight. It's only 8 for us here out in Phoenix. But thanks for the raid. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. For anybody that's coming in later, what are we doing today? Well, we are building, we're in a Linux environment, right? And normally what I do is I run a tool called Werewolf, and Werewolf takes over the environment and manages all of the different nodes in a stateless configuration. It pushes images when nodes boot up. But we had this problem, and what I was showing the guys earlier is, you know, you go to your Linux box here. Let's go to our original Werewolf, and let's clear the screen. And you do this, and you find that the older Werewolf on the older hardware in my home lab only supports x86-64 version 2. That's what's supported. But when you go to run the so we're moving up into Rocky 10, which is the newest version of Rocky Linux. And when I try to exec into that image to make changes, or to use Ansible to chroot in there, or chroot, some people like to say, it breaks and it says, you're not using the right version, your stuff's too old. And I say, okay, that's not good. So what I need to do then is, this is on an older XCP NG cluster over here, right? This was over here in my Werewolf here. But I've got a newer server that I just bought at the end of last year that's on Proxmox, which is right here. So Proxmox in this environment, and this is what I was just showing the guys, this has that ability to do x86-64 version 4. So that means that the CPU can handle that. And I actually looked it up the other day. The field that I needed is, let me see if I can find it. Well, it's definitely there because the system sees it, right? The system sees it, right? Oh, I get all of them. There's all the kernels there. It's definitely there because it's right here, right? If it says it's supported, then that's good. But you can also check in here, and if you knew the value, I don't remember the value right off. We could Google it real quick if we wanted to. Xshunyum, how's it going? Nice to see me. Yep, I appreciate it. Harold said, I figured you were getting close to signing off, but I wanted to introduce folks to you and blame FI Link. Yeah, nice. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the raid. You know, you guys might not find your favorite streamer here, but I'm at least trying to typically show people around in the environment and show you guys Linux. So I do, normally I go hang out over in Harold's stream, if you guys don't know. I'll go hang out over there when I'm done streaming often, but he's caught me the last couple nights, so I do appreciate it. Yeah, so anyway, so I'm moving to this newer hardware and kind of slowly moving out of my 4 older systems, which in aggregate, they don't even have, this box here has more CPU. Oh, he's got 80 CPUs and about, his RAM is right at about 512 gigs of RAM, right? That's you know what it was built at. So this box has a lot more power than all my other 4 servers that are older put together, even though 2 of them are 128 boxes. No, 3 of them are 128 boxes, and then 1 of them is a 32 box. So they don't have a whole lot of RAM in them, but they're doing okay. Anyway, so that's what we were doing here when you guys came in. The other day I was working on this, and then it took a long time to download the ISO. But that's kind of where, you know, some of the stuff's fun to look at. We were over here, this system here. So hostbox exists in the server space over here. So here's hostbox 2 in my environment, and he shares this out 2 ways. So show mount-e, he shows it out as an NFS mount point, which is then NFS mounted on this server right now, so that he could load the ISO up as an NFS ISO mount. That's what's happening there. It also, for fun, is if we do test parm, which is just one of my favorite commands in general because it sounds like test parmesan. But anyways, test parm is how you test Samba. So Samba is SMB. SMB was released by Microsoft in like the early 90s for interaction with Unix systems. But SMB, server message block, we have a program on the Linux side, well, and on the Unix side, called Samba. And Samba is how we interact with server message block. Well, all that to say, if I do, test menu, I thought it was, yeah, anyways. I thought it was two words, but test parm altogether, you'll see that I'm sharing those same ones out through server message block. Well, the reason that's important is if you're running a home box on, you're running a home box that is on Windows, right? Here's all my ISOs right here. So here's everything in that directory right here that I can also see right there. The reason this is so important is that if I had, when I was downloading it the other day, there were two ways I could have done this. I could have downloaded the file here directly like I did, which was just a wget of the file. Just pull the file, put it in this directory. That's the Linux way to do it, right? But let's say my Linux system was air-gapped off and I could only pull it down, or maybe sometimes it's like that pipe is too slow because it's from like your high performance compute, so it's off to the side. So I pull it down to my local box. I could have pulled it down and thrown it just in my downloads in my home lab on my Windows machine. And then I could have dropped it down here into my ISOs, and either way the file would have gotten to this directory, because this directory is both Samba shared and NFS shared. That's what I'm trying to show you guys. So Samba is test parm, and you see it there. You also see it mounted on my Linux or my Windows box at home. And then it's also NFS shared, show mount -E, and that's shared out for systems like this to be able to connect to it and then mount the disk ISO. All right, so let's reboot the system real quick, and we should be able to come in here and watch this thing reboot. Also, if we need to, I think we might have to pop that ISO out, but maybe not. Let's see. Because when this comes up, we're going to be on a Rocky 10 box in the environment. That's going to be the first one that's a virtual machine of its own. These other ones that exist, these are Rocky 10, but they come from an image that we pulled down and deployed through Werewolf. So it's a different way to do things, guys. There's a lot of ways to do things in this world. There's a old saying, Tim Towdy, right? This comes from Perl. Well, I had learned it through Perl. It's Tim Towdy, which is there is more than one way to do it. So something like that. But yeah, anyways, you guys are welcome to hang out as long as you want. And Harold, I do always appreciate you stopping by. Again, normally, if you guys don't know, Harold's always fun to hang out with because he's always building and tinkering in his lab. I don't have any of my mods here. I think I did that right. There we go. Yeah, make sure you guys are hanging out with Harold if I'm not around. If I am around, then you can always hang out with him anyways. But let's go here. Let's get in my box. All right, so this has not been customized in any way. It's just a box that's been built for the first time. Let's see what we can see on this box. So cat proc CPU info. He looks like he's been passed through most all of those, maybe not as many of the things, but most of that stuff's there. Let's go grab this other command that we need, which is right here. There. Let's see if he's got the right settings that we need. That's the problem with consoles. You know, people always ask like, hey Scott, you're always crapping about consoles not being great. Well, this is why consoles are not great. I can't just cut and paste it in there. With a console, almost always you have to type things in. So one of the things I tell you guys is when I first get a system up, I almost immediately always try to get remote access to it, because then I'm in a shell, and within my shell I can copy and paste and do all the other kind of stuff. FI Linux said a variety of solutions. Linux is one of the biggest reasons I'm drawn. Yeah, I think Linux is a great tool. I tell people all the time, even if like, you know, we have almost 5,000 people in Discord now, but it's like, even if like Linux isn't the life for you, even if you're like, oh, I don't want to do command line all day, but I like to tinker in it, or you know, it's the same thing with like a lot of people don't want to be electrical engineers all day, but most engineers I know still go and play with circuits and still go play with Raspberry Pis and turn lights on and off, that kind of stuff. So it's like Linux is one of these things where I think it's like you can go into all these different fields. There's all kinds of other things like, oh, you want to do signal engineering? Well, there's all kinds of open source programs that'll teach you about signal engineering so you can learn about it. Oh, you want to do, you know, Wireshark, and we're going to be doing Wireshark down in the Discord more so people can get more into the networking side of it, but you want to see like how your system interacts with the network it's on, TCP dump is there for you all the time. So is ngrep. There's all these tools that are built. But anyways, let's look at this real quick. So user lib 64/ld-linux, and then dash dash help. And yeah, this one says that it's supported and search for x86 64v4. Cool. That means when we put Werewolf on this box, so when we download the tool called Werewolf and get it running on this Rocky 10 server, and then we load up the images from the other one, because we're going to move it all over here. We're just going to move it piece by piece with some SCPs, right? We're going to copy it all over. What we'll be able to do then in this environment is we will be able to do, well, there's a few things we're going to be able to do, but the main ones are we're going to be able to interact with those Rocky 10 images. And then we'll be able to, because we push these out, but these are very vanilla images. They do work in the environment. They are Rocky 10, but we weren't able to harden them. We want to harden, we want to have, like, it's almost like hardening a server, even for a home lab. It's kind of like the idea, like, if you were like, well, Scott, I have doors on my house, and that's cool, but I just leave them open at night. And I'm like, could you at least close them so, like, the bugs don't get in? And you're like, well, you know, I have all these windows, but we just leave them open all night, and we don't have screens on them. And I'm like, could we at least put some screens on them? Like, you know, like just something. Well, it's kind of the same idea with hardening. Even if I'm going to leave these boxes open for people to connect to, we still want to have some minimal level of security on them. So there's that kind of thing of that. What's the V4 and the architect? So the V4 it's a requirement. So let me show you guys this. If you missed this earlier, it's a requirement right here. So I'm on my older hardware here, and it doesn't have the V2. It only has V2. It doesn't have the V3 or V4. So then when I go to try to exec into a Rocky 10 image, it says the CPU does not at least support x86 64v3, meaning I'm on an older piece of hardware. It's basically just processors have moved forward, support types for, so Rocky 10 Linux can't be run on older hardware. You know, some of my stuff in my lab is just older. So yeah, it's just a newer version of x86. You know, something that's down at the lower levels. I had looked it up, so I think it may even be in my search history. But if I were to say x86 64 and then do that, I think when I was looking it up, yeah, instruction set for, here's the older ones, and then if we look at level 3, they're just more tags that are added in for the CPU. So this one says it's AVX and AVX2, right? AVX and AVX2. And we should then be able to go look. This one doesn't have it, so I wouldn't expect this one to see it. But hold on. CPU info should show, yeah, I don't see those, and I could very quickly search. Yeah. Oh, crap. If I could type today. Oh, so there's AVX for at least that. Not AVX2, that's probably needed. And then version 3 says, yeah, so it's Intel 4th gen or newer. So mine are probably a little bit older. They're definitely older hardware in my home lab. But my newer server is obviously new enough to run that. So yeah. So it's just things that you can go check and just validate that your versions are there. So yeah. For us, the main thing is now we see that we do have that on this box. Now, just for simplicity's sake, let's hostname -ctl and then set what is it? Set I think it's set name. We do -- help as well. Oh, hostname ctl is all one word. Yep, and then we should be able to say host name, and he's going to be Werewolf. So then if we were to log into him, he's going to get the name Werewolf. And then let's do IPBR_ADDR, which will give us that he is in fact 192.168.200.26. That's cool because we're going to want that when we go from here. So for this guy now, to start to push some of his configs over there, I actually have, I have most of the things I need right here to set that up. But let's clear this up. IPBR_ADDR. You'll see he's 192.168.200.25. So he's my actual Werewolf server right now. He also has the right name. Let's do this. Let's SSH copy ID over to 192.168.200.26. This is probably going to fail, but let's try it anyways. Yep, it failed because root is not allowed to use a password. So we're going to change that. That's by default nowadays, but we're going to modify it. We're going to go down to root. This one says permit root login, but prohibit password. But it's commented out because that's the default. So I'm going to say YYP X to make it live. And I'm going to change this from prohibit password to yes. So we're going to allow root login on this system. Again, this is not something we would normally leave. Systemctl restart SSHD. And now I'll come here. I'm going to do the same command with no other changes. And I'm going to put in my password and that'll work. So now the key's been pushed over there and we're going to do an SSH as root right here into that server, and we're going to jump in and we're going to see it also called Werewolf now. What? Maybe not. Well, it definitely is over there and it's definitely that, but for some reason it did not allow me to do root login, yes, but I just pushed my keys. Well, I might have an older. Oh, if we want to check, we do this. So you say, well, how would you check? Let's see what keys we presented, and then let's see what actually happened. Now you only need one V for this verbosity level, but let's go up here and see why did it go to the password? Well, we offered this key, and it said no, that's not going to work, and then it went to the next one. So it didn't allow that. See, we offered this public key here. That's the one that we pushed. And then it's like, nah, bro. So then we had to drop the password. Let's go check one other thing. Let's go in there. cd to root.sh. And in here, there's my authorized key. Yeah, so there's the authorized key file. But it's very possible that since that's an older key, it's not using RSA anymore. Anyway, say what happened. Thanks for answering. Is this stream okay with potentially Yeah, you can ask whatever you want. My job description doesn't contain anything about computing, but I'd like to learn more. Yeah, you can ask questions. I'm fine with that. I try to most of the time I'm going live, I'm trying to show people around the system, trying to show people that they can do this stuff. Tonight I'm not doing any like specific topics on things. I'm like kind of building in my home lab and getting it ready for more user connections. I've got an experiment I have to build for my dissertation, so PhD will be done later this year, maybe early next year, depending on how much I write. But I got to put together my experiment. I need to get together in my lab as well, so that's going to be something I'm going to be doing. But no, anyway, so yeah, you guys can ask whatever you want. Typically, if I don't look down and see it right away, I apologize. It's mostly because I'm just like in my own world over here. So, but yeah, you guys can definitely ask me questions. Let's yeah, why is that key? Do they have, so it's possible that the older, yeah, we may not allow older crypto keys. That could be possible. That's very possible. I'm not going to worry about that too much because once I have this set up, I'm not really worried how I get over into it. So, yeah. Oh, my dissertation's on Bastion computing, and so if you guys know, I work with a lot of government systems, and what I kind of specialize in, I specialize in a lot of dumb stuff. But one of the things that I've kind of been pigeonholed into is building out Bastion nodes. So Bastion nodes serve as like an air gap, and you log into that, and then you get dropped into the other nodes. So you're already VPN'd in, and then you drop into a Bastion, and then you go from that Bastion, you make a decision to go into another node, or you just get timed out and dropped into a node, or we kick you out if we don't think you're a person. There's all kinds of things that I do, but there's not a lot of research around that, like from a security standpoint. So my dissertation is basically on making that process better. I'm using like Falco for system calls from the jailed environment to see what's happening. And then what I'm hoping to do I actually, it's all kind of foggy. I haven't really etched it all down, even though I'm in my fourth chapter. I got to go back and rewrite the first three chapters. One of the things I'm working on is trying to build signatures around, as we let people into the Bastion. Normally we just let them in if they have authorization, right? So they have authenticated. We know that they are who they say they are, and then we basically just authorize them. But right there in that little space, we could have signatures, and then we could allow, if we knew it was a person, if we thought that it was a script or something trying to run, we could automatically not let it run. There's all kinds of things that we can do in there, but I got to go kind of fix it up and prove, basically you have your hypotheses, right? I do have a whole bunch of hypotheses. Give me 1 second, guys. I got to take this call real quick. That wasn't what I thought. And some of you guys might think, why are you... Oh, shoot. I see why that happened. Some of you guys might be like, why do you have your phone on when you're streaming? That's not very professional. Well, because I'm on call this week for NOAA. I took the on call today until next Wednesday. So, and that's NOAA, not NOAA, like the flood. All right. But suffice it to say now, because I have connection over there, I don't need to use the console anymore. Again, consoles are not great for, you can't copy stuff into them, you can't pull stuff out of them. It's just kind of messy in that sense. So, all right, so we're in this werewolf, and we've got that he is 192.168.200.26, and what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to build. Well, there's a couple things actually. First thing I want to do is a DNF update. Let's see what updates there are in the repositories that he has. We're not going to hit yes on it yet. We're just going to see. He's got to pull down all his metadata, and he wants to update all of these packages already, which, by the way, when we first build a box, that's pretty good. Does he have a new kernel? He does have a new kernel already. And the kernel has jumped from 6.12.024 from 8.1 to 49.1, so that's a pretty good jump. Probably a lot of security vulnerabilities in there. So we really do want to do this. So we'll go ahead and do this. We'll let this update, and then when he's done updating, then we'll look into installing Werewolf on there. Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen, let me show you guys something while we're waiting on that. That thing can spin in the background. In our Discord, we've got a bot that if you do !add key in the Prolog lab environment, you can add your key in. Always your public key, never a private key, right? And you can put your public key in here. Again, it doesn't matter if anybody sees it. There's nothing in there that's dangerous. But the bot will go and put that key into our Bastion environment. That's all defined right here, how to get in there. prolog@prolog.asuscom.com. And once you drop in there, you get pulled into our Bastion environment, which looks like, yes. You get pulled into our Bastion environment that looks like this. This is bang 111. All right, and then we go. And you get dropped into a little jailed environment. And if you don't choose anything in the first 10 seconds, this is what happens to you. Like, my hands are off the keyboard. Kicked out because you didn't make a choice in 10 seconds, right? If you do make a choice in 10 seconds, now again, you're in a Bastion jailed environment right here. Let's say you want to go into the Rocky 10 test environment. You get sent over to test environment 1 for Rocky 10. And then now you're dropped into our environment, and you're on a Rocky 10 box. He has 3 disks that you can partition and carve up and do whatever you want in, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I have a bunch of lab resources out there. I think currently I could have a whole bunch more nodes. In fact, when we first did the course for the systems administration, we had 26 Rocky servers up for just that one environment. Now I have just 2 of the Rocky servers, the original Rocky 9. I have 5 of them for the security engineering course, and I have 5 of them up for the automation course. So there was always 12, but now we've got the extra 3. So we're at 15 right now that are up. And if you're ever wondering if they're actually up, you can see that in the Discord here. We've got an Ansible playbook that writes in the sandbox every morning. And this is actually incorrect. They're all up. All 15 systems are actually currently up. I just have to fix it because since they're Rocky 10, they don't use Ansible 2.9 doesn't work with them anymore. So I need to update the server that's doing that. Actually, I thought about doing that tonight too. But it's just, whatever we have time to do, and I'm not really working too hard right now. So, anyways, where were we at here? Hold on, where was that? Proxmox, yeah. But we don't need him anymore. We don't need that. Okay, let's go see if he's done. He's still working. He's about halfway through. 163 of 364. Kernel will probably take the longest time too. Yeah, Fitz. Yeah, anybody from Discord can log into our Bastion, and then they go into the environment. And then what happens? So if you guys don't know, in Werewolf, the nodes exist in stateless. So they're stateless nodes. And what does that mean? Stateless is not immutable. So immutable means you land on the node, and you basically have you just basically have like a little pen like this, or like a little felt tip marker, and you're trying to draw on granite. When something's immutable, you can't change it in any way with the tools that you have. It's like you're trying to write on granite and it just washes off or whatever. But in these environments, they're real nodes. You can add stuff to them, you can install, you could do whatever kind of crap you want. And when you restart them, when you reboot the node, it goes almost like a trap door. It falls and it comes up clean as the original node again because it's a stateless node. It's like Gandalf going, I have no memory of this place. It doesn't know anything about itself. And I could prove that here. Actually, I could prove that while we're sitting here. I can go jump over from, this is the box I would normally do it from, but let's say I go over here and then I SSH, let's just go to Scott at Werewolf. We'll go to the original Werewolf here. Maybe that's not the right password, maybe. Don't worry about the errors you're about to see. Okay. So on this box, let's go over to, I'll just prove to you guys real quick. We'll go to Rocky 4, which is not in the normal rotation. And what is Rocky 4 doing? Cat, Etsy, Splat, please. Oh, we put him on Rocky 10 as well. Perfect. And let's just go into temp on him, and let's touch stream test. Okay. Now, does everybody agree that in this directory /temp, we have a file called stream test? You guys see it? Yep, it's there. And also, if I do like an lsblk, I'll also see that he's got some disks, and SDA actually, I believe, has a file systems on it. Let's do lsblk-f. Yeah, there's a file system on it. Rebooting it would take that away anyways. Well, let's go do something real quick. We'll vi etsy fs tab, and we'll shift G to the bottom, and we'll say dev SDA can mount to /mnt, and it'll be ext4, and we'll do defaults and then 00 like that. And so now we're gonna do watch this, df-h, nothing up my sleeves. Mount-a is gonna mount it. That's a new that's my fault. That's a newer thing. But mount-a, df-h, now you're going to see it at the bottom. There's that mounted file system. I just modified the etcfs tab, mounted that file system, right? And then I also touched the file down in temp to be silly, reboot the box. And this box is it's going to be like a trap door. It's going to go down, it's going to come up, and it's going to be completely reset. There's going to be 2 things for sure that are gone. The 2 things for sure that are gone are that file will no longer be in temp. That stream test, gone. And that configuration in etcfs tab is not persistent. Okay? So this is how I run labs. Yeah, you go and do whatever you want. Reboot the box as you leave. It'll just zipper you out of the environment, and then the system will come up clean every time again. Yeah, so Werewolf is what's providing the stateless provisioning. Yeah, so when a node comes up, he doesn't have any memory of who he is. So I'll show you guys where Rocky 4 as he boots right now. So this is Rocky 4 booting. Let's go to his console. He's going to come up, and as he does, he already responding again? Oh gosh, I got him over here. Sorry, I'm being dumb. He is in this environment here. So Rocky 4 is already back up. We're gonna kick him over one more time. All right, hold on. Let's do two things real quick though. Let's check. So with SH Rocky 4, CD to temp. Is that file there? It's not there. Stream test is gone. And cat etsy fs tab, or fstab, some people call it. My configuration's not there. My mounted system is not there. I'm gonna kick him over again. Anybody know why I do it 3 times? It's an old thing. But watch. He's going to come up. He's not going to know who he is. He's going to do a DHCP request. Werewolf's going to respond and say, yeah, you're Rocky 4. It's going to pop up again right there. You're Rocky 4. Here's your information. He pulls down his kernel and his init RAM FS, and then he can boot. So he's actually pulling that down right now. So he doesn't keep any information on his stateful disks. Now, Werewolf can provision statefully, but we have to use this tool called Ignition for that, and I don't use that professionally. I actually talked to, I was in the Werewolf user group the other day, and they were still talking about Ignition. It sounds great, but I'm not necessarily like professionally interested in that. Although in the home lab, I am kind of interested in that. There are some use cases for that for me. Rocky 4 is back up right here, but we don't want to be in the console. We want to be over here. Uptime, cat etsy splat release. He is again on that newer system, and he's got, now his disk still has the partition though. So if I do an lsblk-f, I didn't wipe his disk partitions. It's just that there's nothing stateful. So when the system comes up, it's inflating everything into tempfs. Now tempfs is run in RAM, so you can crash these boxes. It's actually funny, people were doing this a lot in the sysadmin course. You can crash these boxes by just filling up the disk space, because there's not that much disk space in root, because it's based on, it's held in RAM the entire time, right? There's no physical disk backing these boxes. Well, there's the dev SDA, but he's not mounted by default. But you could mount him in the lab, because again, if you guys drop into the Prolog lab, you're root. You can do whatever you want in there, because the goal of it is to get you guys doing Linux, right? Get you guys touching this stuff. So this might be a little silly, but Werewolf is basically a bit like the Docker engine. No, so Werewolf does something a little different. I actually had a presentation up for it last night that I was talking through a little bit. I'll show you guys my Werewolf presentation, just for a little bit. We won't stick to this too long. Let me move this here, that over there a little bit. But this is my quick rundown of Werewolf. I also have this recorded, and I also did this for the Werewolf user group too. So with the company that does Werewolf, I actually presented this. But anyway, so here's, what do we do? Prolog teach people Linux and Linux jobs, and sometimes we do that with HPC. This is the problem with high performance compute, right? You've got all this stuff. Well, actually the problem's on the next page. This is high performance compute as defined by NIST. And the main thing that Werewolf solves is the provisioning server and kind of the cluster services. So it maintains what the stateless nodes are going to boot as in the environment. And these are things that you have to know about supercomputers if you want to get into that space. And here are some of the major problems with building supercomputers. If you use stateful nodes, so a big fat stateful node that's going to exist for 3 years until he finally dies off or he gets his hardware replaced or whatever, if you ever have to rebuild them, then you have to zipper all the changes back up to where you were, because your original build doc is way different than whatever your runtime doc is, and all the changes in between there. Your patching servers, they're always aging out. Your servers are always getting older. You're always getting more and more vulnerable as more published vulnerabilities exist. So your patching servers, patching downtime becomes more and more difficult the more nodes you have. Thousands and thousands of nodes, patching all of them can be a challenge, right? It definitely is an orchestrator. Yeah, fits. So let's look at how it works real quick. So we come down here, and here's Werewolf. It's by CIQ. It's a service that runs on a node. It always shares out port 9873. It also takes over your DHCP, your NFS, and your TFTP. Those 3 things will always be there, and that's actually part of its runtime dependencies when you go to run it. So kind of brass tacks, what is Werewolf doing? How does Werewolf work as a cluster manager, right? Who's he going to attack in this bar full of very scared people? Well, what he does is he takes over the environment, and he has to be running DHCP. Now in my home lab, I have an untagged VLAN, which is my home 192.168.11 network. And then I have a tag 1 VLAN, so that VLAN only respects the 802.1q tag for VLANs, right? And that one has a DHCP server that's the Werewolf server. There can be only one. It's like Highlander. And he allows when a node boots up to him and says, "Hey, who am I?" If it recognizes his MAC address in its node definitions list, then it will provide them the image that it needs, and in that image there's an init RAM FS and a kernel, and then that system can boot. So let me show you guys, if you were here, what that would look like. So if I was back on my work, by the way, that guy's all done, so we're going to reboot him. And then now I'm back on my original Werewolf server, right? And when I'm back here, I can say wwctl, so Werewolf Cuddle, if you will, node list. Here's all my nodes that I have in this home lab right now. And I'm going to do a -A, and then I'm going to say grep for hardware. This is maybe Mac. Nope, screw it. We'll just do, this is going to dump a lot. And, oh, HWADD. Oh, what was in that? Oh, well, anyways, there's all my hardware addresses. Huh. There we go. So here's all the hardware addresses for all my nodes in the environment. And then if we were to go check on that Rocky 4 server that we just rebooted, that is actually the one that that would be his MAC address right there. And also we for sure know this because he wouldn't have booted otherwise. He has to be, where's Rocky 4? Right here. If we go look at his hardware, he's in VLAN 1. Where's his VLAN? Right there. VLAN tag 1. So he's in VLAN 1. But that's also BC24 E6A2. Where's he at? BC24 E6A2. I didn't want to do the whole thing, so I just did the front 2 and the back 2. There you go. All right. Anyway, so that's how Werewolf kind of works. It gives out the components. It can share out all kinds of stuff, and he takes over the whole environment. He controls the node definition, so each of those nodes is defined in there. DHCP settings are managed by that. You don't do it yourself anymore. He can handle the IPMI connection. So if you're using actual servers, in my case, we're using virtual servers inside of a virtualization tool, right? Either XCP-ng or Proxmox. Well, if you're doing actual physical servers, it can reboot the power and reboot servers, and it can also look on the console and get console logs back. So that's kind of nice as well. It does all the images, so it maintains all my image definitions. And this was actually the crux of why we have to move Werewolf over. So there's the original labs, so Rocky 9, Target Linux 9, Hammer, and Automation. Those are the original Rocky 9 stuff. These two here, though, when I try to exec down into them, because they are a container image, I can exec into them and modify them and add to them. We were trying to update them the other day, and we kept getting that weird error. We can do Control-Shift-R exec right here. When we tried to exec in, we couldn't do it. But if I were to do a Control-Shift-R for exec and change this to one of these other boxes, so like a Hammer Linux 9, and I wanted to put something directly into this image before I booted to there, I'm in that image right now, right? So I'm over in the Hammer image, and if I exit without making any changes, well, you did make a change technically by going in it, it's going to rebuild that image for all the nodes that are going to get it in the future. I didn't make any changes. All it does is it cleans up DNF, so it just cleans up the files. So that's fine. But yeah, that's what Werewolf's doing in the environment. We control Werewolf. The way we control Werewolf is either through its www.cuddle or www.ctl commands, or we can actually go in and just modify the files directly if we want, right? Yeah. So this is that. But Fitz, if you want to see that more, or I'll call you Fizzy. If you want to see that more, I have this in like an hour and a half presentation. It's over on my YouTube side though, so same name on YouTube, by the way. Also, it's YT does it. Yeah, there's YouTube if you need it. People on YouTube, you can already find it pretty easy, I think. Here's how we import images, and then we can build them. You can edit images directly through a chrooted jail or chroot, however you want to say that. Basically, you just go look for an image and then you drop into it. This is the older way though, wwctl container exec, and then nowadays it's image exec. So they've modified their commands to be more in line with what they are. They used to call them container images, now they're just images. So the new command is wwctl image, and they will slowly move out the container. That one won't work anymore. It is still currently backwards compatible though. And then you can build and define nodes. Here's all the things that it knows about Rocky 5 in my home lab. I have a configuration of a default route, and then that default route, all these things here are just variables, and then there's things called overlays, and the overlays are a lot like templates. If you think of Jinja 2 templates, or I always give you guys the example, does anybody here remember ad-libs when you were a kid? And your friend would be like, give me a noun, and you would be like, giraffe, and then they'd be like, give me an action or a verb, and you'd say run, and then they would, and then there would be the silly story about the giraffe that ran around with the blue butterfly or something, right? Just some silly thing with a bunch of words that you just picked out, but they got dropped into a template. It's the same thing. So here we've got a route that's going to be able to be populated by this tagged information here. All of this is also going to get populated down into my Etsy system. It's Etsy sysconfig network-scripts, and then my if configs, right? That's what's going to populate these. So all of these things build, and then we can also go and we can look at them. So let me show you guys this. So this is going to put a lot of stuff, and this may be like kind of complex, but hopefully when you look at this, you go, Scott's not that smart, so I could probably get it too, and that's probably true. So let's do wwctl node list -a for Rocky 4. That's the one that we were just playing with. And here is his configuration. There's his MAC address that we saw. But here's his IP address, 192.168.200.54, right? We know that that's his IP address, and we also see this other information here that's going to be populated. But here's our variables, right? And if we wanted to, just for fun, we could grab these variables, and we can go throw them over here. Just so they're there, so we can look at them, right? We'll pull them out of my notepad here in a second. But what I want to show you guys is this. So now I clear this up. I see wwctl overlay list. And here's all the overlays that may be applied to a node. And my system here for Rocky 4, where's he at? Rocky 4. He happens to have all of these runtime overlays. Now, runtime overlays are updated on the fly. System overlays are one-time shot as the system starts. He happens to have an if config overlay set for when he boots. So watch this. So overlay list, there's that if config. It's got 6 files or directories in it. So we're going to do overlay list if config, and then look for all of the files in there. Okay, here's the files. And then let's go look at this one. So we're going to look at wwctl overlay, and we will cat if config. That's the overarching overlay. And we want that file right there. And this is going to be a template. And that is a hot mess. That's a big old hot mess. But what if I wanted to know what that overlay looked like if you rendered it for Rocky 4 that we were looking at? And that's what it looks like when it gets rendered for that node based on those variables. So right here, we see IP address is 192.168.200.54, right? Are you guys tracking? Right up here, in his configuration, he was 192.168.200.54, and there's the tag that caused it. The netdevs, right there. It's the netdevs IP adder tag, or just IP adder. Now watch. In the template, IP adder is right here. That's where it's pulling that value. So if I were sitting here with a little ad lib and I was like, give me a noun, and you said the noun is 192.168.200.54, and I go, that's a very specific noun, and then I put it right there because it was IP adder was the noun. So I said, give me an IP address, and you happen to give me that one. I would write it down right there, and when I read the story back to you, the story would look like this with your variable that you gave me right in there. In my explanation on the PowerPoint, if I still have the PowerPoint up, this is how it all goes together. You define all these variables. So look, this is what the resources for Etsy FSTab looks like right here, or FSTab, some people call it. I call it FSTab. And then now over here, this is what the the actual unrendered file looks like before it loops over them. But this is when you actually run it and configure it to come out. So this was a node list Rocky 5, and you saw the configs. And then I did an overlay list for fstab or fstab, and we saw the files. Then we looked for that one file and catted out just that one file, and then we asked to render it on the actual node. So if you wanted to see that one, if you're like, Scott, can you show me that one? It looks just like this. So we clear the screen, wwctl node list -a Rocky 4, right? I just want to see this one node, and I just want to see this fstab entry of 4 different files, 4 different file systems that are mounted in that cluster. How does it get rendered? wwctl image overlay list fstab-a, right? So there's the files. And then now I'm going to not list, at this time I'm not going to list, I'm going to cat from that fstab this file that's going to be generated for each of my nodes. And okay, it's going to go and loop over all of these values right here. And it should be, yeah, range fs device fs. So it's going to loop over in here, and it's going to get each of these values in here. And let's see what that looks like rendered for Rocky 4 from that node up there. This is what the Etsy fstab for that looks like. It actually generates these. These other values were static. Do you see that? Those are static all the way down to proc. What it looped over was these ones here, and it made them nice in a format that it's actually going to absorb into an Etsy fstab file from this original. This is in a file format called JSON or JSON, right? And then it ran it through the config. My point in showing you guys this is not, oh my God, I gotta know all this stuff and be able to write this from scratch. No, gosh, no. But what is important is if you were trying to troubleshoot, why the heck can't I add another one here? Because it's because probably you're stuffing the data in here wrong, right? Or you're, you know, it's probably the template's probably fine. It's probably something you changed up here, but maybe, and you say, well, Scott, I would never make that mistake. I would definitely save my work. And I say, yeah, well, maybe you're a smart admin, but the guy that came in before you mucked it all up, and now he's out on vacation for 2 weeks and nobody get a hold of him, and you're trying to like deconstruct what he did. These commands show you, hey, we're dumping this data down in there. This is what the system sees. This is the configuration for the node here. This is what the node is. This is what the template is. And this is what the template is crapping out at the end. I don't care how you think about it, guys, right? You gotta, however you can internalize this stuff. And I tell you guys all the time, this stuff's, it shoots and ladders, man. Everything points to something else, and if something's broken and floating off in the wind, then nothing works, right? Bookmark, hoping to make HPC one day. Yeah, HPC and Fizzy, we're doing an HPC admin course soon. I'm gonna be running that through the Discord. And guys, if you don't know, everything we do in the Discord's always free. You guys can always just hang out in Discord and everything's free in there. All right. So I'm going to pull this out because we don't need this anymore. I just have that in there. I don't need that at the end of my notes though. All right. These are notes for something else. So yeah. So anyways, that's Werewolf. What's Werewolf doing? And there's a longer presentation where I kind of show that. What we're doing here, though, is we're moving Werewolf back into, in this environment. We rebooted him, right? We can just bang SSH. Oh, no, we went into Rocky, didn't we? We don't want that anymore. We don't need the -v now. Okay. So now we're back in this box. We see the updated kernel because we were on 8.1. Now we're on 49.1, so that's updated. It's still on that. What we need to do then is this. So let's cd to root. And what version of the most recent version of Werewolf that I had used was 4.6.21 here. But we can go look to see if there's a newer one. We can always go to a newer version of Werewolf. Trevor, what's going on over here? I did some reading about Proxmox has recommended the processor section of VM setup use host rather than x86 AES. Yeah, I think I am on this one. I thought on the hardware I changed it to host. Yeah, I did change it to host on this one. Yeah. No, Trevor, that's good. I actually couldn't get these to boot the other day when I was trying to get these ones to boot on stream the other day. I couldn't get them to boot. And after I got off a stream, I went and I changed the processors. And what I was doing was I was looking at this one that was booting, and everything else was right except for these ones by default weren't set to host. So that was something I had to fix, Trevor. So that's a good catch. Yep. Okay, so anyway, so we're back here. Let's see what's on their official page right now. So let's go werewolf, and nope, we don't want werewolf.org. We want werewolf. Just go werewolf GitHub. Let's see what release we're on right now, because I know they were coming out to 4.7 soon. But let's see what they've officially released. Downloads, releases. Let's go look at this. We're on 4.6.5 still. Okay, so that's fine. All right, so we got what we need here, and we've got to use the one for Enterprise Linux 10 because that's the release for this one. And the easiest way to download this right here. Oh yeah, they don't have a DRACKit anymore. That's good. The easiest way to download this is just to copy the link address. Come over here. And I am in the old server, so now I got to go back into this node because we're going to put this on the new one. And we're going to say... Right, so we're just down in one of our directories. And we're going to do a wget for that file, right? -o. And I just use the name of the file. So right here. There's the RPM. Boom. So, it's going to download it. It hasn't installed it yet, guys. What I need to do to install it is, well, you can use DNF, but I just use RPM-IVH for Werewolf. And then this should install if it can, but it should also go pull down any other things that it needs. So it can't install it. So what I need to do then is either manually go and install each of those things. Interesting. I do need that for sure. So I need that. All right, so we can put those all on one line, guys. So I can say DNF install, and I can just grab these names here. Boom. And I don't actually need to say x86-64. It'll be implied. And I can say this one. Boot images. And I need that whole name. And I need that whole name there. All right. So now, watch, this is where dependencies come in. Oh, there was one dependency which was Nettle. So we'll say, yeah, that's fine. 2.5 megs, not breaking the bank. It's fine. We want to get the tool working. So that, Trevor, you said you ran into the same issue with Rocky. It says, yeah, it's deprecated. Yeah. So I had to turn that off too, Trevor. When I was playing with these the other day on stream, yeah, I did have to change those, yes. I don't know how this one automatically came there. Maybe that's the default. But these ones were all generated by Ansible. So I got to go update one of these days, and probably I'll do this because we're going to spend some time automating some of this more. But in my home lab here, for people that hadn't seen, here's the deployer that deployed these. This is the environment file for these three nodes, and we're only the second half of the Mac. The first part we just allowed to be this. So this is our Ansible playbook that deployed those. I will have to go in here and I will have to modify this for whatever way I can set the CPU to be set to host. But I didn't see how to do that in there, so I need to go look at the, I think I have my notes over here where it shows all the values that I can drop into that module right here. So this module has a lot of configurable arguments that we can do. And I had disks that we were automatically adding, but I pulled them off while we were trying to get to boot. I can put those back in now, I think, as well. So, Anyways, this is how everything gets generated, and then this is how it gets added into Werewolf. I also need to modify this to remove them. So I need to push these all in with a block. One block will be when we flag install, and then we also will have a flag to remove them. So if you want to use Ansible, you got to kind of do that stuff manually. It's not as cool as Terraform, where you just say, you know, destroy or what is it, destroy and deploy? Yeah, whatever they are. And then auto approve, right? So you're just blowing stuff away in your home lab. Anyways, all right, I'm going far afield. Those are there now. So RPM QA, grep4, I don't know, whatever one of those tools were. I've already forgotten them all. Grep iPXE, right? Those are there. So now let's do our RPM-IVH for Werewolf. See if it'll install. All right, it says it's there. If you guys don't know, this is why so many streamers actually have like a little button that says like ! hydrate or something, or a little reminder, because man, talking a lot really does kind of dry your. Anyways, so let's look. Systemctl. Look for where. It's interesting. I don't see Werewolf there. Systemctl. Daemon. Reload. System, if I can spell system right. And then let's do there's Werewolf D. It is disabled because it does not come on by default in your environment, which is good. We don't want him on just yet in our environment because we don't want two conflicting things. But he should now have, down in etc Werewolf, down in here, he should have a bunch of things. So there should be a nodes.conf, which is the generic nodes stuff. We should have a werewolf.conf, which is our generic configuration of our werewolf in our environment. So these are all going to have to be values that change. But what we're going to do is we're just going to start moving the stuff over from the other environment. There's also down here a bunch of definitions in, where's it at? For the werewolf. In here there should be the cheroots and the overlays. So there's nothing in there now. There's also user local werewolf. Is that right? User share. Yeah. And then in here there's also overlays that are being shared out in here as well. So here's the werewolf type of thing.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Robodom? Robodom is one of my oldest subscribers and probably my most active mod. So yeah, hopefully everything's going good. I've just been hanging out today, Robodom, because the wife is at a, who did we say earlier? Bruno Mars? Is that who I said it was? I don't know. I've heard that name before, but I don't know who he is. She took one of the nieces there that really wanted to see the guy. So the wife's always doing fun stuff with people. Trevor, you said unfortunately werewolf Zoom sessions are very late at night for me. Yeah, that's theirs. By the way, Trevor, those are CIQ, so they were the ones setting that. If we wanted to, we could have our own for sure. But that one that I set, that was actually just a link to theirs because I always miss it for people, and I didn't want to miss it for people. So that, yeah, Robodom, she went to a Bruno Mars concert. Yeah, I don't know if she likes him necessarily. I mean, maybe, but the niece that is 15 or 16 definitely likes him. So the wife took her, and she's like, I won't be home till about 11. I'm like, all right, that's fine with me. So I'll be in bed by then because I got to get up at 4:20 in the morning for jiu-jitsu. So I get up pretty early. All right, so our things to move then are we're going to copy over the cherooted environments. So the things that are already hardened in our environment, we're going to move those up. Well, and here's the thing. We could just build these clean. We could just build everything clean over on this server and not move anything from the old one. We could do that. I'll definitely pull over the nodes config though, because it's nice to have your nodes config. So we could do that. I mean, you know, how much do we want to, save from our old environment, or do we just want to rebuild everything? That's something to think about, isn't it? Yeah, let me think about that one a little bit, because obviously if I rebuild everything, I can just show people the process of rebuilding everything, which I think is also valuable. Um, yeah, we'll think about that. But while we were working on it, there could be some things that would kind of fall through the cracks. So maybe we'll pull over. We'll probably pull things over. I think that's a better way to do it. If I were doing this professionally, I would definitely just rebuild everything. But since we're doing it for the home lab and there's some stuff there that's useful. Also, next weekend, this Saturday, people are going to be doing troubleshooting labs. So I do have to go remake those troubleshooting images, because the troubleshooting images have things broken in them by default. And then during the sysadmin course, I make the guys fix the stuff. I make them like group up and work together to troubleshoot them. Some of the guys here probably remember that. I know Trevor's been through it before over on the YouTube side. I know he's done the troubleshooting with some of the other guys when we first did the Linux sysadmin course. I just had these broken images that had like web servers busted on them and firewalls misconfigured and stuff, and then they had to get in them and fix them. So if anybody ever wants to do those labs, by the way, they're always out here. So this is the Linux admin course, and then down, yeah, in 15 and 16 it was, the labs were just, oh, maybe not 15, maybe it was 16 with incident response. Yeah, so these were the broken labs that I had them do. So if you went in and then you went tshoot at prolug, I had a specific environment for that. I'll modify that a little bit. It'll still be just the normal prolug user, but then I'll just make the admin like troubleshooting one. And then some things were busted, and then the next one, oh, the mount point was busted, so you had to make the mount point. And then the last one was, I think I had something wrong with the kernel. Yeah. Oh yeah, I turned off all the repos. So okay, yeah. So no spoilers there for people, but the labs are definitely going to be busted when you guys get in there. But that's here if anybody wants this stuff. Yeah, so NixOS is great because NixOS is an immutable image, right? Like I could let people in and not give them any access to anything. That's the easiest thing in all the world. But I want people to be able to do some things, so that's why I have to use stateless images. So we also use that with our in our high performance compute world. We use stateless images in compute because compute sit in this weird space where there's two things that have to be true about compute images at the same time, and this makes it a challenge. One, they have to be exactly the same as all the other compute nodes. But then two, they have to be completely different in that they have to have all of those individual node customizations here. So when we were back here, hey, how's it going, Blaze? Normally I'm rating you or Harold, but you guys rated me tonight. So I appreciate you coming by. We were talking a little bit. We were building some stuff out in my home lab. And what I was showing the guys was, let's not do all of them. Let's go for just like Rocky 4 in my environment. And this is the node configuration that Werewolf has about a stateless node in my environment. These are all the configs that get pumped down into the system. But there's two things that have to be true about, well, really any supercomputer. The compute nodes have to be exactly the same in all of their, in these ways they have to be the same. They have to have the same CPU to memory ratio, which means their CPU and memory have to be the same. They have to be performing within 5% upper or lower bounds of whatever the baseline speed is. They have to have the same exact network connections into their back-end storage. So if you're using like HDR InfiniBand with like multiple 200 gigabit per second connections, there has to be the same exact amount on all of them. So all of those things have to be the same. So your compute images have to be the same. Everything has to be the same. But then over here, the personalization has to be different. The IP addresses have to be unique, right? Locally, well, IP addresses have to be globally unique, but in a non-routed sense. So in your IANA ones that are internal only, they have to be locally unique, right? They have to have their own, typically IP address on InfiniBand if you're using it, IP address on InfiniBand. So anyways, my point is they're exactly the same over here, but then they also have to be personalized different. and that causes a bit of a problem. Well, when you do stateless nodes, it makes it easier because the stateless node has the same image, but then all of this is customizable. And I was showing this earlier, but you have your overlay list, and then the overlay and then your overlays. And I was showing how when you go look at like a node here, and then you've got all of your resources for like etcfs tab, right? Then you come down here, you do your overlay list for fs tab. Some people call it fstab. I don't care what you call it. And then you can look at those. So you cat one of those out. Right. And there's that configuration, but that's a big old hot mess. So what I want to do is see that rendered for, so render that for my Rocky 4 server, and that's what that's going to look like when it gets pumped out to the server based on the definition of the node, then the little template, and then how it comes out. And the way I always use that as an analogy for people that are looking at that going, oh, what the fuck's he showing me? It's the same thing when you were a kid and one of your buddies had an ad lib book and he was like, give me a noun, give me a verb, give me an adjective, and you're just making up a story. But the story, you're just saying things at first. You don't know where the things are going. He's sitting there putting those into his little template that he's got. He's got a little book. And then at the end, he tells you a story and it looks like this and it's nice and clean. So that's kind of the way that I think. Yeah, Robodom, I always thought those were fun. I like the Mad Lib ones where it was like everything was just unhinged and insane and that kind of stuff. Trevor said, our public key. Yeah, so the Bastion's not going to change, Trevor. Your public keys are still good. If anybody needs to connect in, though, the public keys, you can go into the Prolog lab environment, and then this explains to you guys how to get access. And public keys can be shared far and wide because a public key is generated from a private key, and it's a one-way hash. You can't get back to the original from it. That is actually the basis of all public key infrastructure, right? Is one-way keying. So there's no way to generate the original private from a public. Publics can be shared far and wide. So if you guys need access to a lab environment, we always have it. And then, so Robodom, you're around, and Trevor's around, so I can talk a little bit about this. Oh, it's over. He's talking over on YouTube, Fizzy. He's just saying that our public key is going to be on the new systems. Yeah, I'm not going to change that, Trevor, for sure. So yeah, you'll still be able to get in. What I was going to tell you guys is I'm going to be doing, especially when I get my doctorate finished, we're going to have we're going to do Prolog research. We're going to start doing our own research in the lab environment. I'm going to build a tool that I use called Open On Demand, and people are going to be able to connect into the cluster and do stuff that way as well. So Open On Demand will allow me to share out, if people want to do Jupyter notebooks in there, if people want to do, we won't have MATLAB because I'm not going to have a license for it, but I have configured that for customers. Jupyter Notebooks is a big one, probably like Octave, which is a free and open source one. And then we're going to be able to we're going to mess around in there for people who want to mess with data sets and do that kind of stuff. This is Open On Demand, if you guys have never seen it. And you can do all kinds of stuff. You can even write your own apps in it and stuff. But for the most part, let's see where they have. They should have right here. Oh, here's the enabled applications. Here's all the applications that just come work out of the box. So you want to give people like Jupyter notebooks, you do it right there. MATLAB, but you need licenses on the back end for MATLAB. But typically you can still do other stuff with that. Yeah, so we could do all kinds of stuff in here if we want to give access. I haven't done a lot of the other ones. I've done MATLAB and Jupyter notebooks. Oh, and then VS Code. You can allow people to come in and connect and do VS Code sessions directly over SSH if they want. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Pretty good little tool. I'll add that up. But yeah, we're definitely going to start doing some research with the Prolog. So people that want to get involved with doing that stuff as well. I can't get anybody else a doctorate. I can only get myself one. But for anybody else that wants to work on research with us, they can do it. So. Bogomit said, do you know about Codify? Wait, hold on. I can't read that. Coolify. I don't know what that is. No, I don't. I know about Lambda. One of my buddies works for Lambda, and actually, well, he's one of the senior guys in our group. Oh, I haven't seen this. Interesting. No, they got a lot of stuff going on in here. They have self-hosted, so you can run your own. We can do it on Ubuntu if we want. I do have Ubuntu in the lab. We definitely have all those things. We definitely have any of these that we want. Yep, we're definitely 64. That's the manual. Make a bunch of directories for it, okay. Make some keys. Generate some random values, okay. Yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. I haven't messed with it any. I have never even actually seen it before. But it seems like it's interesting. I need SSH access. Good. Interesting. Alright, I'll leave that open. We'll mess with that here later. I try to keep things open and then go back and look at them later. Although sometimes my system reboots like it frickin' did last night. And I had to reconnect everything. Where was that? Oh, we were copying in, or we were gonna start copying in a bunch of stuff from my environment. Yeah, Trevor, we'll probably do some co-publishing. Yeah, we'll definitely. I mean, we'll publish ourselves if we can't find anybody else to let us publish. But yeah, I think we'll definitely do some of that, Trevor. Yep, and then Warpgate. I think you've showed me Warpgate before. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So they go to your single sign-on and then drop over. I respect somebody that'll write that on their webpage. I actually think that's funny. Yeah, and if this has an API where we could have the bot, instead of just do like add key, we could add key for a specific thing. People could drop their stuff directly in here. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see use for this. Although you guys, some of you know that I deploy my Bastion with a playbook. Although my playbook is written for an older version of, well, CentOS 7. So I do need to update that for Rocky 10 now. So that's actually part of my dissertation. That's actually like to the side of my dissertation, because dissertation's on the Bastions. It's just that I use that as the deployment method for it. So, however you want to get there. It's all right. So what were we doing? Yeah, we were going to start copying stuff over. We could start doing that now. I could just say, okay, so everything's going to. Let's just do this. So we were going to this one, right? So now we're going to have to copy things out of here. So the most recent nodes.conf goes like this. And let's do this like this. So we'll say SCP over to 192.168. So it's always from somewhere to somewhere. So nodes.conf in this system. And we're going to send it to 192.168.200.26 in the path etsy werewolf so etsy werewolf, and then in there let's call it nodes.conf.copy, or let's just say copy, because we're copying it in from this node, right? So we'll go push that over there. Hopefully I know my password. Okay, there we go. So nodes.conf is going to get pushed over. We're also going to do werewolf. So werewolf.conf is also going to get pushed over there. And we had the key. We pushed the key over there, but the key's not working. So we're just gonna leave it like this because it's not too many of those copies that I have to do before I don't care anymore. If we copy, what did I say I was going to do? Did I say I was going to copy everything over? I think I did say that. Var lib var user share werewolf. There's all these overlays. All right, so we have the other ones. So the other one is var lib werewolf. Chroots. All right, so now here's all of our chrooted environments. So we can do an scp-r everything over to this guy, and then we're going to do into var lib werewolf chroots. There should be. Yeah, they're all owned by that. All right, this is gonna take a little while to push because this is about, it's between 2 and 8 gigs each, depending on what I've put in them. So this might take a little bit of time. Not too long though. And it's copying a full OS, so multiple images of OSs, so. We can let that spin for a little bit. Make sure I'm not missing anything. rsync might be quicker, yeah. I never really got much into use. I mean, I could use rsync, but yeah, we'll just SCP it, because then we can just sit here and watch it spin for a bit. That's always fun. What do I plan on using as a job manager? We'll use Slurm. That's the one that I know the most. Yeah, we'll use Slurm because that's the one I know the most on the open source side. The ones that I use professionally that are not open source are like PBS Pro, but I can't give people like access to PBS Pro because I don't have extra copies of that. So the easiest one to use and the lowest barrier of entry, and also probably the most used in the industry for like colleges and stuff, because when people try to get into HPC, you're typically going the college or the government route. You know, typically those are the people that have big high performance compute. So I like to show people, because here's the thing, once you know, and this is my thoughts on it, but obviously a manager of a hiring team may think about this differently than I do. But I think of it like, if you understand that the scheduler's over here doing a job and all the nodes are workers, we used to call them masters and slaves, but now we just call them like control nodes and workers, right? So the control nodes control all the workers. And if you know that from any of your login nodes, you can typically submit jobs. And those nodes are also technically worker nodes, although they're not in any partitions or what we would call job queues. Some people call them job queues, some people call them partitions. Doesn't matter what we call them, right? You understand that there's these pools of resources that people can access and use. And then you say, okay, well, like Slurm tells me to do like sinfo against the number of nodes or against the nodes and see what state they're in to see if they're completely allocated. There's a bunch of allocation states for my nodes. So the job scheduler is supplying things over. We can have accounting done through in Slurm, it's the Slurm DBD process, and then that can either go back to Postgres or MariaDB, and then when that's going on, we've got auditing. We can see what jobs users have run. So there's all kinds of things that we can know. And in my mind, if you can do those things in Slurm, you can do them in PBS Pro, or you can do them over in Platform LSF, which is the IBM tool. It's one of these things that would be like if you're like, well, Scott, I know how to, I know how to use a lawnmower on my yard, and I'm like, then you definitely couldn't do it on my yard. How would they be similar? They're not even but that's silliness, right? Like, obviously, if you can make a lawnmower drive around, then you could do it anywhere. And it's the same thing in my mind. Even if we change the technologies, the same routines happen with job schedulers, right? The same things happen no matter wherever you are. So, but I will tell you, I've run into managers, and especially managers that don't really know what's going on the tech side, where they're like, oh God, there's no way. How would you ever be able to know that one thing? And you're like, oh, got to deal with this again, right? But anyways, hated my in-house documentation for Slurm. Yeah. I'll tell you, I think Slurm is a decent tool. They have decent SchedgeMD is the support for it. I've seen them be pretty responsive to people. I don't think I've ever kicked anything over to them directly, but it's definitely copy's going to take a while, because that's six different full images of nodes. So yeah, if we're going to see every file, the slowest thing is definitely the fact that it's showing it to us on the screen. Whenever things are limited like that, you're always going to have I/O slowness. So we may end up, actually, let's see, we're over 2 hours, and I don't stay up too much later than this anyways, but yeah, so I've got my outline for my user training, and this is kind of going into some training I'm doing for a customer at work. And this is kind of my high level. I'm going to add in my training docs, like I have like a little lab that I make the users go through as they're following along with my about 2.5 hour training I'm doing for them. So this will be like the lab portion of it, and then I have steps in my lab environment for them to do. So there's that. All right, and then one more thing for people, because people got here later. This can be a little bright. I apologize. You can dim your screen or put your sunglasses on. This is in August. We hit our 12-year. I've probably been doing this longer than that, but that's just what we officially say, is our 12-year anniversary of our Discord. Of our Professional Linux Users Group. The Discord will have been 7 years, because I started it right before COVID, because some of my friends wanted to come and hang out with us in our Linux group, but they were up in Colorado, so they would hop down and hang out with us. These are the people that are going to be talking. These are the different talks that we're going to do. Some of these are rehashed from previous ones, so this will be my 3rd year doing why engineering. It's one of my favorite talks that I do, because I just talk about like why we do engineering and how we do it a little bit, and I don't actually get into systems, and I don't get into any type of engineering in this. This is just, a guy who's been teaching engineering at the college level for it's almost 18 years I've been teaching at the post-secondary level. Kushagra asked me if he could talk. I don't really know him, but he has some interesting stuff. So he's going to do Thinking Like an Attacker. He wrote a book on this, so I don't know if it's any good, but we're going to see. Burninator has came and talked last year. I know him. He is a major in the Space Force, and he does Rails security sessions and talks about hardening boxes. He may change that up, but that's just what I generically put in there for him. Jared's going to come and talk data analytics. He works for a billion-dollar web company, and he is their primary data analytics guy. So he's pretty good on that. What's a software engineer? I am not a software engineer. I am a systems engineer. But I mean, engineering is engineering, so the principles are the same, but I don't specialize in that for sure. I can write enough code to get myself out of a wet paper bag. And then each night they're going to have a late night hangout with King Buns. If you guys don't know him, he speaks at Clojure conferences, so he is kind of a Clojure, and that's a programming language for some of you. And then some of our other guys are going to come and talk. Stovepipe has some RHCSA stuff that he is going to talk about. He's got a really good GitHub on it that's posted down in our Discord a few times. And then Sending Grounds is, he works with one of the big Fang, Mang, whatever you want to call him. His acronym didn't change on his provider, but anyways, he's been a systems engineer for about 10 years over at one of the big cloud guys. And then Dr. Matsuri is going to come in. He's one of my buddies. He just got his doctorate. That's why I put that there, in economics. But he's also an AI guy. So he has a little AI bot that explains some of his dissertation work and stuff. That's available online for people. So that's kind of cool. And then Frederick's going to come. Frederick's been a part of our community for a long time. He asked me to use his real name. But normally I would have used their pen name. But some people want to use their real name, which is fine. And he was one of the people that helped write the Spiffy Zero Trust stuff. So he's going to come in and talk about that. And he said he really likes giving that talk, so that'll be good. He also speaks for SANS.org. He doesn't speak, by the way, he won't come here and speak for them. What I'm saying, he is a professional speaker that's been all over the globe speaking. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then more late night hangout. If we need to, we can open up sessions here in the middle of the day too. But, it's all in Discord, so it's all free. But we will have a few hundred people come through. Maybe even up around 500 people come through on these days. So it's definitely fun to come and hang out and talk with everybody and stuff. So, all right, that's probably enough of that stuff. I'm gonna get off of here, but yeah, Robodom, I always learn a lot, and I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I've heard some of those people's talks before, and I still think I learn a lot when I go to them. So, yeah, but I'll drop off of here. I appreciate everybody coming by. Let's go find somebody. We'll go find somebody to raid over on the Twitch side.